things off here. Sportssense podcast coming at you after Mont-Sainte-Anne. We've got Ross, we've got Reese again. This was an absolutely epic race, epic track. This one always seems to bring the drama. Mont-Sainte-Anne. It's one of the most technical tracks out there. It's got that rock garden in the middle that just it's crazy, and then some super high speed sections. This year there was an outrageous amount of drama, both on the men's side, which was non-riding related in a way, but then also on the women's side with a few pretty crazy crashes. But Ross, what is it about this course that just brings the drama every single year?
Yeah, I love it, man. It's so cool because I think the cool thing about that track is most people who are an advanced rider could ride that track, maybe with the exception of some of the bigger gap jumps at the bottom or the CV Smith rock. But just to ride it isn't that gnarly. To go fast though and be accurate is the hard thing. There's so many sharp rocks that are, if you're an inch or two off your line that you were intending on, you can basically end your race with a flat or just hit something so hard that it really jolts your weight forward, and especially in that rock garden. And I love how that rock garden, where it is in the context of the race, because it's basically 2/3 of the way into that race run. So if you get through that high speed bit after the CV Smith and you haven't got a flat and you're on a really good run, you're basically going into the hardest section of that whole track. And it's one of those sections of trail where I don't think it will ever feel awesome. So mentally, it's a real mind games going in there. And you saw a lot of them were on really good runs, like Ronan Dunn, and his race was ended right there. So it was so good. If you couldn't really even design a track to have better potential inbuilt drama built into it, which I think is what makes it such a good viewing spectacle. At the end of the day, we all just want to be entertained. We all wanted to see a fun, cool race filled with amazing riding, and just the track just delivers every time. And I'm really sad it's not going to be there next year.
Reese, have anything to add?
Look, that was a very apt description of the MSA course. Yeah, I think for me, it's just that combination of high speed and precision required means that there's any opportunity on any section to make up or lose time. So you can't really, you're not waiting for one key section. There's so many options to make up time based on your style or your fitness or your everything. Like we saw, Kolb had a crazy top section, but then a different, not as strong bottom section. So it just, what Ross said, plus just that ability for there to be changes in time or time lost and made up, honestly, absolutely anywhere on that track means it's just, you're glued to it the whole way through.
Yeah, I want to look at something specifically, and this is through the rock garden here. I have a POV, basically comparison of Jackson going through it, and this is when he went through it when he was doing the course preview, but then also during the race. So I'm going to pull this up and show you guys, and you can take a look at. You can just kind of talk about the line in particular and how things sort of looked through the rock garden here. So it seemed like there was two pretty distinct lines kind of heading into the rock garden. You guys can see this, okay, right?
Is top one race run? Yeah,
top one, with all the people at the crowd. There was two pretty distinct lines that seemed kind of going through here, where you had Jackson. You could either go low or you could go high, and Jackson looked like he kind of went low, kind of directly into it, and then he kind of pulled off a few gaps that not a lot of the other guys are doing, but a few of them were doing. So you look at the top one here, and you see Jackson kind of coming through along the left side, and then on the bottom. Contrastingly, he's obviously not going race pace, but he's chilled out a little bit more, going a little bit slower, kind of just picking his way through, with the top one being way more direct and kind of more lily padding through it, which is when you could see that third person too, pretty wild to see how quickly he's going through there, and just the amount of risk he had to take to go that quickly through the rock garden. It was mind blowing. Reese, what do you think?
It was bananas. It was insane. There's two key gaps in there, I think. The first one up at the top where he gapped up to the left as he's entering the big first steep section. And you can see kind of hips a little bit as he does it. So just on the top one, this one here pops and like kind of hips. So now he's like pointing dead straight to the next gap, which is this one, which is nuts. So
Oh.
that hole, to be able to pressure into your bike while it's on a completely uneven surface to get that pop over it requires so much precision and is so high risk, because if one wheel is like a little bit hooked up on a rock, like you're not going to make it, or you're going to tag it, or you're going to get knocked off balance. So to have one of those gaps is crazy, but to do that, especially that second one at that pace on that surface, just required the most insane amount of precision. And I think it's important to note, like, under a lot of fatigue, you've just done, imagine just doing like 100 burpees and then trying to pop your bike in the middle of a rock garden, and fatigue plays such a huge impact on, or such an important role on our timing. When people are sorry, just getting bugged here. When people are tired, for you to like push at the exact right time, the exact right amount, the likelihood just drops off extremely quickly the more tired you get. So yeah, again, under fatigue at that pace, to time that the way he did, so high risk. And you could see he was like right on his limit of what was going to be achievable, because that rock garden was insane.
Can you go back to the little section where like there's the tree with the blue pad on at the base of that, the end of the section?
Yeah,
like
very end of it. Okay.
Mere mortals in that, no, a bit further, like he like airs into this, and then he's like literally, like most of us would think, oh, there's that tree, and he's like on collision course with it, and then just gets like,
oh my
holy
God.
I think that could, I mean, he admitted in an interview that he came into that whole rock section like faster than he wanted to. But I think, like we've been chatting a lot about, one of his sort of riding and racing superpowers, if you want to call it that, is he's just able to back himself in utter chaos and come out with just having his riding skills just make it work.
Yeah,
and one thing to note in that rock garden is anything that's pink is sharp square rock, razor sharp rock pointed back at you, which is almost guaranteed flat tire. So like, the amount of pink in that rock garden is crazy.
One thing that I wanted to take a look at here, and I just noticed while we were kind of watching this, is like as he comes through these trees, so you have like the first gap here we were talking about, Reese, and then to get that second gap, look at his line, like look at his momentum in this direction. He's moving this way, and watch how he changes direction right here. It's like this is so crazy to watch how he changes direction through the trees right there.
And I almost think, if I remember from his run correctly, he like kind of unweights, but I think his back wheel like steps out to like almost advantage, like, or he hopped. To be honest, I can't quite remember how he did it, but
Here, I'll pull it up when we can take a look.
Off, like how quick he goes from this way to that way. Like it almost looks like his bike broke traction and stepped out on him, but it kind of worked, you know?
Here, I'll pull it up here so we can look at the third person. Here we go.
Close.
And we'll have to, because that's going into the rock garden, right?
Yeah.
And then, okay, so there, gaps, goes through these two. And then it's like a lean, or like.
That he nearly got pitched over the front there as well.
Oh, so maybe that was more of a mistake than it was like, because like.
I think it's like the nature of that rock garden is that doesn't matter how good you are, like it's never going to be the same every time.
Yeah. I think he was in the air. Watch, like he like.
Oh yeah, boom.
Yeah, that one was.
And then this right there, like the hop into that is wild. And I think we're going to chat a little bit about the juniors in a bit. But if you watch the top 4 juniors, they all were doing that unreal. And in the elite, maybe Jackson and only like 1 or 2 others were doing it really dialed. So that tells you what's coming next year.
One other thing I wanted to look at with a bit of the, like, you know, Jackson's I would call it flagship riding style with his lily padding. And just like through this section of track right here, you look at the speed that he carries, you look at how insanely fast he's going, and the hips just get leaned into it, and he points himself around the corner. And the way he's able to like keep traction through this, like look at this, catches that right and just goes. He was carrying more speed out of that section than anybody else. You know, he was red through here, and you watch, now he's minus 2 seconds. He made up 2.5 seconds through that segment. That's absolutely insane. Incredible riding by Jackson. Do you have any other comments? Ross, do you have any other comments on this riding?
Yeah, I think to do that as well, like, I mean, we talked about it last week, I think, how he was in a pretty much a must-win situation. But, you know, there's one thing sort of thinking about it, saying you can do it, but to actually put it down is just pretty insane.
Yeah, I think it shone a light on, for me, the mental aspect of, you gotta love the process. You know, you gotta love the hard parts. You gotta love the pressure. You gotta, like, to be an athlete at this level, you need all of that. You know, and it's regardless whether it's like world champ or you're winning the overall, or like a lot of the riders just try to perform at these last two events. Like a lot of our juniors just were trying to perform to get a ride or like get noticed so they could get some support for next year. And so that's playing in people's minds. And I think that's the thing. He just loves the process so much, loves that part of it, like feels the pressure and just loves riding his bike, you know? And I think if any rider or racer looks at that as an example, it's like how to deal with pressure, and your mental state is to focus on what you can do to ride your bike the best and enjoy that process. And then that's all you can do. Everything else is just noise.
Where are you guys at with how this all went down? There's a lot of division, I think, on, you know, people thinking that Loic, like, it was unsportsmanlike to do that. It'd be interesting to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, and I think that to kind of kick things off on that is that I think that this was like a purely tactical move from Loic. And looking at how injured he looked after the race, there's a video of him getting out of the gondola and he's really limping around. So clearly, I don't think he was capable of riding. I think people are speculating that he was maybe like going to see how Jackson did. But I think it was purely like he's going to go up there, make it look like he's riding, put more pressure on Jackson, and then Jackson maybe makes a huge mistake and crashes. That puts him in a situation to win the overall. I don't think he was going to ride no matter what based off of how his leg looked and what he was doing. He was at the top, but people crashing downhill a lot, so this is part of the game. But to crash in qualification, to show up and then, like, you know, put that a little bit of pressure on, tactical move, I wouldn't say it's good or bad. I just think it's purely tactical from Loic's perspective. Yeah.
So I think the fact he didn't say anything, I'm thankful, because we saw like basically you know, a kind of an all-time sort of style run where that will be looked back upon, you know, 20, 30 years from now as being like a highlight run. But in not saying that, like, it's kind of a, I don't know, it's a bit unsportsmanlike, I think. Because he's then, yeah, like you said, he's then potentially hoping that Jackson gets a mechanical, gets a flat, and then he doesn't have to do a run. I wonder if, say, Jackson had flatted and then maybe came down in 10th, for example,
right,
whether he would have ridden down or not. Because if he like made it in the top 20, maybe he gets enough points. I don't know what you think, Reese.
I think all is fair in love and war and mountain bike racing. I think that was brilliant. I thought it was perfect. Like, these are the best riders in the world. You've just worked for the overall for the whole entire season. You also put down a heater and smoked everyone in quali. So he put himself in the position to be able to do that. It's not like he didn't earn the right to decide. He won quali. So I think it was awesome. I think it was a brilliant move. Like, from a management perspective, or if I was like in his corner as a coach, I would have been like, dude, get out there, try to warm up, see what you got to do. Because if Jackson was, say, like you say, just, or had a bobble, like just rushed it a bit too much, went way too hard, like it could have, it was millimeters if he mistimed something in that rock garden and just like hit a tree and lost 5 seconds, and was 20th, and Loic just had to do a run to win, then he probably would have done the run too, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. But like you say as well, look what we got out of it. That was insane. Like Jackson Goldstone run on 111% risking it, everything for the biscuit was incredible. And then for him to go, look, I can't beat that run, I think is like a smart, mature, commendable thing. Be like, well, look, I'm not going to beat that with this hematoma on my leg. Fair enough. Only criticism, I would have just been sick if he like walked out there and like waved and blew a kiss or something cute and then left.
Yeah,
But
because they did leave it like everyone seemed more confused than like they knew what was going on at that. But like if he had stood there and gone like, no, I like, stood in the camera and just said like this or something like that, I'm done. Like, we would have been able to speculate on what was actually happening, and people could have like been like, okay, Jackson wins. But it's a little bit weird. It is dramatic, but it's a bit weird to be sitting there watching Jackson be like, what's going on? I don't know what's going on. And then the fans are rushing this, stage and everything like that. It's kind of like when in football, like, a play's made, but then maybe there's a bit of a dispute and like there's a flag that goes and you're like, I'm not sure what the actual outcome is. So it would have been nice to have been like, yeah, this is for sure happening. Like we for sure know that Jackson won. So you can start that celebration. I think that was the only little piece that was missing there. But like, honestly, such a crazy season. So like awesome to watch a Canadian guy win in Canadian soil, and for us, as Canadians here, I think we're all we're all like happy to see it happen. And also just for the sport, this is the third time that any rider has ever done World Championships and the overall World Cup. Nico Vulio back in 1999. Loic is the other one to have done it. I think it was in the 2020s. Jackson does it and also equals Aaron Gwynn's record for wins in a year with 5. Most World Cups we've ever had, though, is the ones with a caveat, but is it's a huge moment for the sport. I think we're in for a treat with things that are coming next, which especially on the men's side, I think going into next year, looking at the juniors that are coming up, this is going to be absolutely insane. To jump over and take a look here at, Asa Vermette with the fastest time down MSA in across all of the racing. Asa's been riding like, pretty well, not super consistently, but he's been doing like, he's riding super well, like, when he decides to dial it in and when he decides to have like a really great race. Guys, what are your thoughts? Ross, I'll start with you on what next year is going to look like. Let's start with Jackson. Like, what's he going to have to do to stay on top next year?
Good question. I mean, he's now the measuring stick. He's the top. So, in sport, often, if you're trying to rise to the top, you have something to measure against. You have something to inspire you. But he's now probably going to be looked at as a little bit of a blueprint of how to ride, how to be successful. So it's going to be interesting to see, especially with this junior crop coming through. They've been matching times or even beating times. Of course, we got to factor in maybe conditions. A couple of corners might have got blown out throughout that race. Even the light might have been a factor, like later day, more long shadows. So we want to acknowledge that. But I think really for him, I think he's just got to look at what his weaknesses were this year. Anytime the tracks were requiring of speed generation, whether it was through pedaling and or pumping to gain speed, there's no doubt he's the master once you get up to speed. But I think for him, he needs to maybe ride some flatter trails, trying to like adapt his skills so that he becomes one of the best, or at least in the ballpark for those flatter trails. Obviously, with his frame size, that's going to be momentum is never going to be something he's going to have. But I think the key for him is just think like, what can I do to maximize my supposed weaknesses, of which there aren't many.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see, like thinking about it from a strength and conditioning perspective. Like you wouldn't want, your gut reaction is to say like maybe put on some muscle and to help with that. But then if he loses that ability to be super agile and poppy and light, does that balance out, you know? Like this is why mountain biking's so interesting, I think, because it's like it's yeah, he might have switched that, and yeah, he puts on some muscle, and then all of a sudden he can carry more momentum. He's got a bit more power in the legs, etc. But then his all of a sudden getting more flat tires, more mechanicals, or his timing is off because he's heavier now, and that power to weight isn't quite right, or it's just changed. You know, like if you think about like your body changing, um, it it could change his, or it would change his style. So you almost don't want to mess with it too much, but you could probably add a little bit of that in there, like sprint power stuff, or like you can add power without putting on tons of mass either. So he could look at some specific training to do that. But the other side of it, I think, would be just if you looked at his off season and what he's going to do between now and next year, I would say like just let the kid go have fun. He's so young and frothing, and that's what's getting him through all this. He's going to train, he's going to ride, but yeah, like go do a Red Bull video project where he jumps off something, or like makes a sick film, or just do something that keeps him super pumped on riding, and as to not get completely like absorbed in next year and what's going to happen and all those things, because there's going to be plenty of time to deal with that in the season. So I just try to get him having fun in the off season and continuing with all the positive things you have to do, like train and ride and etc. But yeah, recover, have fun on your bike, keep that stoke super high, and keep him moving.
When I'm watching Asa, riding and watching through all the hard lines, he seems to be like a pretty spectacular rider when the conditions are incredibly difficult. And then another thing I've also noticed is he seems to keep a bit of a higher average sort of speed over the entire race, and if not like building momentum. And so this is kind of my opinion there. For you guys, do you have a strong opinion on like what is Asa Vermette doing really well, and like what's he gonna be able to build on? Like what's his real strength in riding?
I mean, I think like a bunch of these juniors, he's like learned, he's got great fundamentals. He's learned some great technique from a young age, and to my knowledge, right now he hasn't had any like big injuries. So, the beauty of youth is if you are highly skilled and you haven't had any scary sort of crashes that have resulted in serious injuries, then that's not going to chip away at another thing which helps everyone at this level do really well, and that's their tolerance for risk. That's something I think that is, if they were to be on a distribution curve, their ability to actually like not be phased by what we would consider to be risky things is they're great at like just blocking that out. So Asa, the Alron twins, Tyler Waite, John T, like I think they're all like, I think for them, if they can not go overdo it in the off season, have a clean off season, no injuries, I think that they're just going to be layering on that experience that they're getting at such a young age, and it's just going to serve them really well moving into elite. So I don't think it's like he's not doing anything one thing spectacularly well. He's just doing everything really well, and just being a little bit patient with that progression, I think, is a big part of it. He also lives in Durango, which has got very loose, dusty, sort of rough conditions. So that might be why he's so good when it gets a little bit hectic.
So people were talking about this triple, but I think they were also talking about a quad in here too. They were saying they could go quad or something.
Yeah. Yeah, like Reese said, a lot of the elites weren't doing that, but the top 4 juniors were all doing it. So that's the biggest thing for me, is like those guys have all got the most. It's like they've got the most up-to-date software because they're so young, and they've been able to copy the best riding for so long now that they're just getting the skills earlier. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting if they all have clean off seasons. They don't get injured. I can see the Alrons, Asa, and Tyler Waite all battling inside the top 10 next year.
I was going to touch really quickly on one other thing for the juniors. Just wanted to show a really sick clip and like how precise like Max Alren is when he's riding. But I also want to go back to Vali, so we'll talk about that in a sec. But just taking a quick look at this one clip. This is from Sleeper Coast on Instagram there. But I wanted you guys. I don't know if you saw this, but it's that scrub over the last little bit of track as they're coming into the main. This is that scrub as they're coming into the main area here, but this was the like it's like this super slow mo, and that's Max,
Yeah.
like so close to the edge.
So
Sickest
crazy.
thing we've seen I've seen all day. There it is. Look at that. Look at how close.
I mean, that
Yeah,
just
man.
goes back to what we were talking about, right? Like you look how flexed he is, how angled he is, and how rotated his hips are. He's used every plane of movement quite a lot, close to maximum.
Yeah.
Going super fast at exactly the right time, and that's how scrubs work like this so well.
Yeah.
Reese. No one can explain a scrub like you. You're the master. Look at that. That's wild. Cool to see.
Yeah, I think the Gracie crash, the speed she was going into that final jump, like she pretty much had to do that, but I don't know if that's in her toolbox yet.
Right. We talked about how
To that degree.
Yeah, or at that level of fatigue, three
Yeah.
almost 4 minutes into your run, that cooked, for you
Yeah.
to do all that at the exact right time. It's a timing issue, and that's all that happened to Gracie. She couldn't scrub as much as she needed to, or she didn't slow down as much as she needed to. I think all of those errors were just purely fatigue. And she said that she's like, I was so tired, I just needed to get to the finish, and I just blew it because I was so cooked. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Gracie also very candid as always. She's a very honest interviewer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to talk about Vali really quick, she's had a tough season. At least, she's made a couple of posts this year about, dealing with stuff with mental health but racing quite well despite that. And I think with YT, obviously some drama there, but having a lot of fun out on Mont-Sainte-Anne with her run after she got that flat, just kind of being a little bit silly. Love to see it, honestly, the lighter side of the sport. Ross, what do you think?
Well, it's cool. I was getting like Sam Hill vibes from back in the day with her shorts. So I was loving that. And I think that was a bet that she made about if she won the overall. So it was really cool to see her go through with that. And I thought she was riding awesome. I think one thing with her, she seems to ride really well when she's a bit freer. And her riding up until she flatted was like, to me, it was a statement of she still is the best technically. From a riding perspective, she did some really. If you go back, I think on the kind of hipped jump, not the one before, that like really nice style. So she's got the moves, and she's the standard as far as I'm concerned for all the women. So if we even think about what she needs to do, or like what she could do to stay on top, I think similar to what Reese said about Jackson, I think enjoy an off season, try not to like overdo it, because she came into the start of the season feeling like it seems like she didn't even want to be there racing. So but I think she does do other stuff like skiing in the off season in Austria. So it's about maybe discovering or even realizing that she has created a huge legacy for herself in the sport. So in many ways, almost at such a young age, even, she's cemented as one of the legends in women's downhill. So everything else from here on out, if she almost looked at it as like, that's just bonus, and she's playing with house money, then maybe that might help her kind of just race having more fun. At least that would be my take.
Reese, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, first thought is we always judge Vali, like same with the Jackson conversation, where it's like she is the bar. So if she's below her own bar, we're like, tough season for Vali. Wrapped up the overall before the season ended and won world champs. So I don't know if that's like objectively a tough season. If anyone else did that, it would have been like the year of years, you know? So it was relative to her not winning as many races as she's used to winning, but still her like tough season was lots of podiums overall and world champs. So pretty insane. And yeah, exactly. You would just, again, if I was her coach, I would just say, you got nothing left to prove. Let's go have some fun now. Like, let's just rip it up. Let's go to
At
Bali.
what, like 24?
Yeah,
That's pretty
she's
good.
I think she's 23.
Yeah.
So young, like go have fun, keep doing what you're doing if you want to stay on top, but I'd like nudge her to like a film project or something that keeps her stoked and keeps pushing her riding in a way that's productive.
Yeah, I'm sure Pete Matthews could find or Stephen Matthews could find a video project for her for SRAM.
I'm sure someone could find her a video project. Red Bull might have some budget.
Yeah.
So, end of the season here, one of the teams that we consistently saw on the podium was Canyon. And, it was pretty cool to see them, even though they didn't have like those crazy stand-up performances. I think Canyon just really proved that consistency wins championships, right? Like consistency wins for the team. And there's a couple of reasons that I think that it really all came together for them. And it's one is they have like, great leadership, veteran leadership with Gabe. He's, doing a great job, I think, with putting that team together. We got Fabian, who's, the charisma, the excitement, brings kind of a great dynamic. He's a great, great locker room guy, as we would say in Canada. And then I think on the riders are just so dedicated and they seem to just, consistently keep getting better. And then they also have like the tech at the forefront. Like they're really thinking about the technology and, using sportsense and getting those line choices and like figuring everything out. Like, and I think it's the consistency of like what they've been doing on a weekly basis throughout the entire season that's like, brought them here and kind of making them really perform. Reese, do you want to comment on Canyon and maybe even the riders too that have been really performing for Canyon?
Yeah, I think they've chosen that team super well, but those riders are all, from Marine, Troy, Luca, Kiefer. They're all
Aletha, Oscar.
Yeah, they're all very consistent riders as well. They have that in common that none of those riders are known for like a win it or bin it approach. So they all are quite consistent riders and, they've chosen that smartly. So I think they all benefit each other. And from the energy chakra management perspective, if you've got consistent even keel energy, there's no one who's, you don't have any like crazy social media people in there or like huge personalities. They're all just seemingly lovely people. Like I know Troy, I've been around Luca before. I don't know him, but like they're all pretty just like steady, positive, rad, consistent people. So you can see that sort of translate into their riding and that translate into the team's performance. And yeah, man, consistency is the king, especially as a rider's progressing. If we look at how your average rider can sort of adopt this mentality, it's like trying to go as fast as you can is not going to necessarily help you become the fastest rider or the fastest version of yourself or the best version of your riding self. Like riding consistently at pace and gradually building that speed, if that's what you're trying to do, or style, or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve on your bike, being consistent is going to be one of the critical elements to that progression.
Ross, any thoughts there?
Not really. I agree a lot with what Reese says there. I think it's like, time in the game and, just working hard and the results come. I think the key thing with the Canyon team, I think they avoided, some big, like they didn't have it, like they didn't have a win it and bin it sort of attitude. I think they knew that, consistency would pay off. And I think, we don't know what happened to Henry. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to race this week. So hopefully he's fine. But, he seems like he's had a very pragmatic approach. He's almost been sort of a student of Fabian Burrell, and he's just bought into just taking every avenue of information, of learning possible to rise to what he's done this year. And I think that's kind of bled into the rest of the team as well. So yeah, really awesome to see.
What do you think for performance affecting factor here? Like, what was the key thing on the course?
Nutrition. Just kidding.
Nutrition.
Nutrition.
Yeah, champagne. Yeah,
What do you
stay
think,
well
Ross?
hydrated.
I don't know. It's so like I think at this level, when there's like the what led to the outcome versus what like physical skills like really highlighted, and it's hard to not just think that the mental side, because I think, but that's just such a cliched sporting thing. But I think of someone like Ronan, for example, like he was on a great run and then he got to the rock garden and then it seemed like he wasn't able to be as accurate as he needed to, and he just hucked onto a square edge rock and game over. So in many ways I'm thinking like I'm pretty interested now the season's done to think, well, what are these guys who've been in the mix, who've either won races or been on podiums, what do they need to do to raise to the level of consistency and execution that Jackson has and what Loic's managed to do? You know, even Armory, he's crashed a fair bit on race runs. Ronan's had a lot of flat tires or broken rims. But clearly he's at a good pace. He's in the mix to be able to win these races. But is he gonna do anything to help him not get these big mechanicals? Because to me that almost would involve asking him to do something which he clearly maybe doesn't love about mountain bike. He seems like he loves that loose sort of send it kind of mentality, and that's what maybe makes him fast. So to ask a guy like that to say, hey man, let's be more accurate, let's be more, keep it between the lines a bit more, that might take him away from being really pacey. So for him, it'd be about how can you maintain the pace, but bring the accuracy of the line you're on way tighter.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to pick one performance affecting factor that's superior to the others in any track, right? Because they all work together. That's the point. But I do wonder, like, for some of these riders, everyone does train, but I think it's becoming increasingly important to be super fit. I mean, other than the bias that I sell strength and conditioning programs on the internet, but it's like to be precise.
That's the answer.
To be precise, 3 minutes into a track and not make those little small errors. If you are fitter for longer on the track, like we all know the feeling of how much easier it is to be precise in the first 30 seconds of a run versus the last 4 minutes of a run, you know, or whatever, especially if you're doing long runs. So working on that, I don't know, you what you said, Ross, gave me a thought, like for some of these riders, could you put them in a context where you didn't have to make it like boring to make them work on these skills, like these precision skills? And it's I wonder if you did something like, you know, make Ronan ride with like half tire pressure through rocky shit so that he has to be like super precise and perfect. I mean, if you had unlimited wheels, who cares? Or like, you know, something like that where you're just doing a drill that is removing it from context, and it's like, this is your mission, is to just like, ride this section on super light tire pressure and no rim dings, and that's how you're gonna kind of manage that precision and weighting and unweighting the bike exactly at the right time. So that's still fun for him and it's still a cool challenge. But then when he goes back to Ronin regular wheel pace, then he's just fine-tuned that timing and that pressure control a little bit more.
Even if he's more accurate by like 1 or 2%, that's still a better Ronin than this year.
Totally.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a big change, but someone needs to come up with like some tire inserts that make a noise if you go too push too hard. That'd be pretty funny.
Like Operation.
Yeah.
Just a little zap through the hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be gentler. Be gentler.
It's
Because I know you do.
the
I know he's basically
$100,000
your favorite rider, Rich. So
Yeah, you guys are really glazing them up for me here because I told you he was my favorite rider last. I like his style. I'm gonna throw in a performance effect. I'm gonna throw in a performance affecting factor for this race, and I think I said it during the World Championships. This is my pick. It's my pick again for this race, but basically ability to perform under pressure. If you've ever been an athlete and you've been in a situation like what Jackson is doing, like, you know, and then having to put together that perfect 4-minute choreographed run under those circumstances, that ability to perform in this circumstance is so underrated in my opinion. You know, I'm sitting on the couch watching this, you know, armchair warrior or whatever you call it, just like sweating. And I know I don't have that mental, you know, fortitude to put myself in that situation and hold it. And like, seriously, that's such a huge underrated skill in my opinion, because we watch it on TV, we see somebody win and we see it happen, but you know, to come back again and again and to do that consistently for a guy like Jackson or a rider like Vali or even Loic, put yourself out of your comfort zone and see how it feels. And now imagine having to do that in front of a crowd of, you know, tens of thousands of people or however many people were here. I don't know if it's tens of thousands, that might be a bit of an exaggeration. Look like a lot of people out there in Mont-Sainte-Anne. Put yourself in that situation and then also put the prize money, the sponsors, the brands, all that on the line, and the ability for them to kind of like wrap themselves put themselves in their own little bubble and perform is incredible. Okay, a couple of questions that I want to kind of jump to. This is kind of the end of the season, the like sort of wrap up on the year. And Ross, I think your question, maybe you can, this is me sort of paraphrasing, but last week you wanted to do something for this week that was, if you could like wave a wand and get a style of some rider, who would it be?
yeah.
Do you want to kick it off with who it would be?
Yeah. So it was basically if either of you two could pick one rider that you could enter 2026 with as that rider and compete under as Reese, as Rich, with your goal of winning next year, who would you pick?
Go Reese. Yeah.
Hold on. Sorry, I was muted. There's an airplane flying over before.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe curveball one, but I think I would pick Tyler Waite, maybe. Just because mostly because I just want to do whips like that, to be honest. But like upside this way whips that kid does and then turns him in is the sickest thing ever done on a bicycle, I think. So probably him, just so I could go around doing psycho whips all the time. But
all right.
Because then that also would translate to the race run. So I feel like if I could take my older man coach's brain and implant it into someone that young with that much potential, we'd have a hell of a season next year between the two of us.
So the idea, I guess, is to like, they had like given the toolkit of one specific rider.
In a way, it's a weird way of me asking, who do you think is the best equipped racer in the world?
Well, I think it's an interesting question, because like you kind of look at all the tools that are available, and like you could look at some riders that like, you know, have thrown down some incredible races that like maybe don't do it every single time, and you could say they have all of the tools, but they don't necessarily execute all of the tools. I would say that for me, geez, this is a hard one because there's so many great riders out there right now. But I think like,
let's pick your boy Ronan. Yeah, you want to. I know you want to.
I think I'm gonna give in. It's Ronan. Like, I think that guy, he's got all the tools. He's just like a sick, smooth, floaty rider that like blows up corners. And I think that if like, you know, I had that toolkit, you know, going into this season, it's like it almost doesn't matter how you perform. I think you just look sick while you do it. And so that's why I'm a similar thread to what you're talking about, saying like, this is like I don't even care if I win. I just want to look good and make sick clips and post on Instagram. And like, you, Ross, who do you pick?
I mean, I'm going for the win, and I'm gonna look good doing it. I go Max Allround.
I knew you were gonna pick Max.
And
That's why.
this might be a hot take, but I think in him you're seeing the most up to date, most refined, best skilled downhill racer there's ever been.
Period.
So it's
Okay,
a hot
Wow,
take.
that's
Controversial question
It
for
could be
you.
controversial, but I think he's got the most complete, well-rounded skill set. He just looks so smooth, makes it look so easy. So I think there's room there to even go higher. He's young, so yeah, I would take that.
and you can do this now, Ross. This is now your in 2026. This is your toolkit.
So
You can
like
do
I
this
said,
thing.
win and look good doing it.
That was low hanging fruit though, Ross. That was a sandbag answer, I think.
What's that?
That was low hanging fruit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I said, who would you take? I mean, could have gone Asa, could have gone Jackson.
You could have.
You
Yeah,
you guys are taking the skills for a different outcome. Although I think Tyler could be in the mix.
I reckon he's got it.
I think Rich just wants to live the risky lifestyle.
Doesn't
He wants to live the 5 Red Bulls before he does a race run or whatever it is. And
There it is.
yeah. But
Yeah.
here's another question. Do you think we're going to see a rookie or 2 rookies win a World Cup next year?
Yes.
Yes.
How many winners do you
question
think we'll
asked.
get next year?
2.
4.
2?
Oh,
So you
total
only-
or
yeah,
2?
as in individual riders.
Sorry, I
like-
thought you meant rookies
So
who
like, for
would
instance,
win.
how many did we have? We had Jackson, Loic, Luke. Who
Ronan.
else won? Amory,
Ronan won one, didn't he?
Ronan. So that's 5. That's pretty good, actually. Did Amory win one? Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Is that
I'm gonna
5?
say. I'm gonna
That's
say
pretty
it's
good
gonna
over
be.
10 rounds.
I think if you, I'm sure there's like, we should really do this little analysis here and like look at how fast the juniors were versus the seniors, and then you could even look at how many winners would there have been each based off of like those two. And
Yeah.
like honestly, it's like Max, Asa, Jackson, Loic. Well, I guess Loic didn't win any, did he?
No, he did. He won one.
He won one, yeah. And then
Did he? Actually, did he? Yeah, he did. Yeah, he won. Yeah.
right
Didn't
in
he won
Let's
Andorra,
Go?
didn't he?
Or Andorra? Yeah, Andorra.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
And-
with the the juniors, it's going to be like, I think those juniors coming up, I think it's just the bar just got raised, and people are really going to have to jump up and perform if they want to win.
Yeah,
and I just don't think it's going to be that.
I think
easy.
next year there's going to be more riders in contention for the overall.
What about on the
I do
women's
think
side?
we've got to be cautious, and we're possibly underestimating that jump, though. I think that the pressure and the step into that limelight,
Right.
riding at the end of the day, more fans, more training, more stuff going on, more deals, all those
Yeah.
factors of being an elite are going to weigh in, and I think we're going to be a little bit
Well,
proven wrong.
maybe I will be. You're you're being less bullish on this.
Yeah, I'm healthily skeptical. I think you gotta there's a reason like veterans do so well, and you see like Luca Shaw, for example, who was like a example of one of these protege juniors, who was like game-changingly good, struggle for years, and like now he's finding some real consistency quite a lot.
Yeah,
further
he
on
might
in his career.
he might make the next step up. I wouldn't be surprised if he finally won one next year.
Totally. So I think we've got we're almost treating this as like these juniors are progressing, and like, well, the elites are also progressing. Like they're not just doing nothing. It's like Loic's getting better every year. Jackson's getting better every year. You've got people like Luke, people who are like older than these juniors, but are 24 years old and are kids, and they're not even close at their peak, both the men and the women's side of things. So yeah, I think it'll be pretty sick. Especially, we haven't touched on the women's side of it, but the juniors, like getting Ali and Rosa and those, or maybe Rosa's not going up. Aletha doesn't move up, but some of the really fast junior women who are moving up as well into the elite women's is going to make that depth of field much bigger as well. So, but you at the same time have people like Lou and Millie who are, young or young with thin downhill. Like Lou hasn't been racing World Cups that long, and she's got to be learning so much every race still and progressing huge and finishing in the top 10. Except for I think she got a flat in the race, but like qualied in the top 10. Like rides all of like first woman to complete both hardline tracks in the world. Like, so there's some crazy things going on, and I think the off season is going to be awesome because everyone gets to do that and like go hone in their skills, and they're all going to leave with a hit list of like, I want this from my fitness, I want this from my mental training, I want this from my bike setup, I want this from my skills. So I think it's pretty cool because they do get a bit of a reset, and then we get to see who's done what, back at a new season, who's been doing work, who hasn't. And then we'll see those other people like pop up, and it'll be exciting. Can't believe it's over. I'm sad.
And what a great way to wrap things up there, Reese. Ross, it's been awesome kicking off this podcast this year with you guys. This is super fun. I think it's just going to keep getting better. I think during the off season too, we're going to have we're going to try to get like some guests on, and we're going to talk to some of the, line spotters and managers and, people in the bike industry and some of the athletes. So that's going to be really exciting. So we're going to keep this going. But for now, we're out.
Boys.
Thanks, boys.